Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the M42 from Xtrfy. Before I did a video comparing the M42 and the M711, or not really a huge comparison, but just why I believe one is better than the other. Today I'm just going to focus on just the M42. Sorry, got a little clogged up in my throat. Today I'm just going to be talking about all the things in the M42. Just a little bit more in-depth look at this, how it performs, how the design affects your grip, what things are annoying, what things I like, what things I don't like, and then yeah, of course, what things could probably be improved on, and yeah, I guess we'll get right into it. So first and foremost, I do want to say that there's more positive things than negative for this mouse. The shape in general is really nice. It doesn't really work for me for reasons that I stated in my last video. Just a quick recap: the back width of this mouse and how thin the grip width is really doesn't work for my short fingers because the width of the back presses into the sides of my hand, and it's really becomes like a thing that you always feel it in your hand. So if you have short fingers, I would recommend staying away from this mouse and go with something like the Viper Mini or even the MM711, as both of those work really, really well for me. All right, so first things first, I guess we can start with the clicks. Omron 20Ms. I'm not going to do sound tests because everyone and their mom does sound tests, so literally any video will do sound tests. So I'm not going to do sound tests. Omron 20s, they feel more solid than the 20Ms and the Cooler Master mouse. So it definitely has that going for it. And yeah, mouse click feels. I don't want to say it's mushy, but it's definitely not really tactile, especially in something like the MM711 again, and even like the Roccat scroll wheels. You definitely get a little bit more tactile bounce. It's like better bounce back from the mouse or for the scroll wheel click. This one's kind of just it's doable and it's tactile, but it's definitely not the best feel. Side buttons are going to be a lot better. Pretty damn responsive, I would say. Uh, Kind of the same feel as I don't want to say the same feel, but it's definitely more tactile than like the or not tactile. I would say it definitely feels better than the MM711, which I did say in my last video. But I think that's mostly because of the surface area on the buttons. You have a lot more space for you to put your fingers, and the clicks are very. I have like a very slight. It's like you wouldn't really notice it if you were playing, but it's very slight pre-travel. Like it's probably not even worth mentioning it because it's that low. There's no post travel that I can feel. Yeah, nothing really. But it's like a wiggle, like something that you would expect from a normal button in post travel. So basically non-existent. Um, yeah, so that's it for the clicks. Clicks are good. They're responsive. Really good tactility. Definitely, it feels better implementation than the 711 in terms of like click feel, even though they're the same switches. So good on them for that. Yeah, I guess we'll go on to the coating. The coating is a matte coating. They do not make a glossy as far as I'm concerned. They have a couple different colors as well: black, white, blue, pink, and they have a retro edition, which I wish that's the one that I had, but alas, did not end up getting something like that. I didn't want to pay the premium at all. Or I wouldn't pay the premium, I don't think, unless you're really into aesthetics. This mouse specifically was sent to me by a friend so I could test it out when I was looking for something to main. Yeah, coating is really good. Very, it's not a textured matte coating. It's just straight up matte. So think like the Viper series where it has like the textured like PBT feeling. This one is just smooth matte. Honestly, I prefer this over the textured plastic just because it's a lot more comfy, I think, in my opinion. And the way this matte coating is you don't really see fingerprints and stuff doesn't really build up on the mouse as much as like a glossy coating would in terms of like the gunk that you get on the buttons. So definitely a good coating. Probably my favorite coating out of all the mice that I have, even more so than like the G Pro wireless, which has a great coating. But this one, I love the feel of like the really like soft matte. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like a softer matte feeling. Yeah, definitely a good coating. Mouse feet, nothing to write home about, but they get the job done. I don't think you need to replace these like some people say. But then again, I think mouse feet are the last thing that you would need to replace on modern mice. They definitely get the job done. Basically, every mouse that I've used has got the job done, unless you have something that's super textured, like a mouse pad that's super textured, where you get more scratching. But I have the Aqua Control Plus. I also have the Long Yun from Tiger Esports, and they're both. Uh, oh, I don't want to say textured, by the way. Obviously, this is uncoated, but the texture on it is going to be a lot more rough than, say, a standard cloth pad, such as, well, if you have a standard cloth pad, you definitely know because it's going to be smooth instead of textured. But yeah, I don't notice anything really from the Aqua Control Plus. Very slight scratching, but I definitely think that's um, more because the texture of the pad versus the feet, because it feels very similar with every mouse that I use. Um, G703, yeah, it's basically the same on everything. Um, Obviously, these level of feet that Logitech used to use is going to be worse than the PTFEs that we get on modern mice. But yeah, mouse feet, I don't think it's an issue. I think if you're looking to upgrade a mouse, you're definitely going to want to look at the cable over the mouse feet, especially, or at least your first mod should always be the cable. Almost always. The 711 has a good cable. M42, everyone knows how bad this cable is. It's no secret at this point. Xtrfy cables, they suck. They're so bad. Uh, in terms of longevity, okay, they're bad in terms of usability, but I think in terms of longevity, they claim it's good. I never have. I've never had a problem with mouse cables in my life, and this is going all the way back to like some of the first mice I had, really early iterations of the Death Adder, the G502, even like old Corsair cables. Like longevity, I've never had a problem with like longevity on cables. So I think it's okay to take a gamble, especially when the fix for losing out on a cable is maybe like $20 getting another paracord. It is an investment to get something else, but if it breaks, I don't think it's as big a deal as like going out and buying a whole nother mouse. So yeah, cable sucks. We all know that. I guess it's barely passable in a bungee, but if you're gonna get this cable, do not let it free ball on the table. Like you have to get a bungee. I can't even explain how much better it is with a bungee than it is just on the table, and that's kind of in general with every mouse. Get a bungee. I won't go into that. This is not a bungee review. So yeah, I guess from there we can go to the aesthetics. This is one of the prettiest mice that I've ever used and I've ever seen. It looks so good on your table, especially when the RGB is going. Um, I like this RGB mode, which is just the constant flow of like the color change. But there are different modes. There's solid colors, breathing, solid colors, and you can change the. There it is. Yeah. If you hold down the DPI button, or not DPI button, it's the RGB button now, not DPI, and right click, you get to change the colors. Hitting the DPI button once is going to change the. I keep saying DPI button. Hitting the RGB button once changes the style of RGB that you get on the mouse. So this one is the solid color, and then you can do the color change again with the right click while holding it, and you get to cycle through all the main colors. And then you have breathing. This one does not. I don't know the exact. Oh, okay, that's why it doesn't change color. It's just the. It just alternates. Then you have the circular one. I personally love this one more, but I mostly use the version where it's multicolored. This one right here. I like this one a lot. This is my favorite one. Even though I'm not really looking at the mouse, it's my favorite one. Um, yeah, RGB aesthetics, really good. Okay, so let's go into the performance of the mouse now. And I will talk about the performance of the mouse before I talk about the back because I think the back is obviously a direct influence on how the mouse performs. So yeah, I said earlier and in my last video that this mouse doesn't work for me because of the back flares and how thin the grip is. If you have longer fingers than I do, which is probably the chances of you having that is very high because my fingers are really short, then you will have no problem with this mouse. I can't really get two fingers on the side, so I have to do one finger. And because I'm not tilting my hand like this and don't have the space to tilt my hand, I have to basically straight on hold the mouse. Because of that, I get problems with the back flares poking into my hand. That is the number one problem for me with this mouse, or the shape of this mouse, and that doesn't get fixed with the back hump. But the other problem that I have with this mouse is the side holes. I don't know if it's a sizing thing or how the cut is, but the holes in the side of the thumb side is fine because I lay my thumb flat on the mouse, so it's a non-issue on the thumb side. But the pinky side, it's so bad. My pinky, the side of my pinky is holding on this on the side of the mouse, the right side of the mouse, and every time I have to, just in general, like I'm gripping the mouse, you feel it constantly. It never goes away. It's always an annoying poke on like right in the middle of a hole. I guess like where I hold it is right in the middle of a hole. It's not in between the holes. So it's kind of like an unfortunate spot where my pinky ends up, but like the side of my pinky is in a hole and you feel it constantly around your pinky. It makes it almost unplayable for me, but I think that if I got like not, I don't want to say like grips, but I think if I got a skin or something to flatten out the sides, this would improve the mouse so much for me. And if you're someone that's sensitive to holes, I would say the same. Uh, but there's other options out there at that point if you're gonna mod so much of this mouse to make it like really like perfect for you. You'd have to really love the shape, and I think there's just better shapes out there. Um, yeah. So yeah, that's my whole ordeal on like the way the design choices affect your grip and what parts can annoy you. So I guess we'll go from there into the back. Right now I have the ZA style back. The ZA style back. It's mostly just big rear hump. It doesn't really feel like a ZA at all, especially since it's not thin in the backside like a ZA is. Um, yeah, I don't. There's not too much of a difference between the humps, which means it's kind of more a gimmick than it is a feature. But who knows? There's so many people that play games on their PC that I would not doubt that one of these humps makes literally like just changes the entire feel of the mouse. For me, that's not really the case because the only thing that changes is where the middle part hits the center of your palm. Because the width is exactly the same, or it feels basically the same. I don't think it's as enough of a change to warrant like obviously you'd have a preference, but I think you can aim equally as well with both humps, if that makes sense. It doesn't. It won't really affect your performance. I think. The only thing that's really going to happen is again mouse shapes are all about finding and minimizing the little annoyances that you have using the product. So I mentioned that the holes suck for me. The flares on the back suck for me. The hump that has the flat hump, the more FK style hump, just adds another little annoyance, and that's that there's a pocket in the back of your palm that feels like it shouldn't be there. On other mice like the Viper Mini, you have a gradual hump. It's rounded specifically for the hump placement. So whenever you hold on to the mouse, there's not like a weird, awkward, uh, like space where it's empty on the back, but you still feel it on the back, if that makes sense. So with this mouse, you still feel the entirety of the hump. There's just a spot in the middle. It's like a pocket that it makes in the back of your palm. And it's almost like, why is it even there in the first place if my hand has to be wide enough to get around the humps? What's the point of not having space back here? Because I'm already going around. My mouse grip is not that much more forward with the FK style than it is with the ZA style. It's just less in the middle. It's so weird. It's cool. It's such a good idea, and I like that they include the schematics to print out your own uh, like back humps, which is cool. And I think in the future that would be great. I think what they needed to do with this hump was with the FK style, they should have. I don't know if it's even possible with the height that they got this in, but they needed the sides to be lower, almost like flush with the rest of the mouse, or lowered this point right here so that you could get the height on the side of the removable plate instead of on the side of the mouse itself. So if they like lowered this part right here and then made the height more correlated with the uh, additive, you would have gotten so much more of a change. I think that's the problem with the adjustability of this mouse, is it adjusts the change is in the wrong spot. I think the change needs to be the entire back and not just the middle of the back. So that's my 2 cents, and I think that would make much more sense for them to do, because it would actually change the feel of the mouse and have it more rounded on the back. I think, honestly, if that was the case with the design of this mouse, I think it might be my main mouse, because that's the only real problem that I find with this is the width of the back. Um, yeah, that's generally like my entire thoughts about the mouse. Their build quality is I should have mentioned this in the beginning, like when I was talking about it, but as people have stated, I just changed the sense. Build quality is really good. Such minimal flex on the bottom. I have to squeeze really fucking hard to get that to go. Um, there's no side play at all. It's minimal. It's just like the buttons I talked about earlier. It's very minimal side play. There's no post travel. There's barely any pre-travel. You would not be able to notice it. But overall, the build quality of my copy, at least, is pretty damn good. I can't complain about it at all. Also, I guess you could fingertip if you took the side off here, or took the back off. I'm not really too much of a fingertip player, so it definitely feels weird to me. But yeah, that's basically it on this mouse. You have the polling rate on the bottom. 1,000 or 500 to me doesn't really make too much of a difference. Ooh, let me find the cents again. Feels like 800 to me. Yeah, in terms of performance, it's good. The sensor feels really smooth. Yeah, it's gonna be personal preference. Dimensions and all that stuff is online. So if you do want to try it out, go ahead and try it out. I'll leave a link in the description, of course, because probably gonna be obligated to do that anyway. Um, yeah, ZA Hump Master Race. Uh, Peace.